So welcome everyone. Let me start now while we're waiting for more people to join. So I hope there will be more to join soon. So my name is Bom from Junction. Junction is a public venue and knowledge center focusing on every dimension of Southeast Asia. And today we are holding the panel discussion, which is a part of Mekong cultural, how the cultural worker in terms of social change, a meeting point on art and social action in Asia. So in addition to this panel discussion, there are many organizations, both virtual and both in person, in some places that they can do in person. So for the panel discussion we are holding today, we are going to talk about the artists amid the pandemic. So this topic is really timely in terms that many countries in Southeast Asia like Thailand, Indonesia, or the Philippines, and many more are facing the new wave of outbreak right now. And the pandemic has been about many unprecedented change and challenge to many sectors, and including arts and culture. So today we like to put the attention to art and culture, how artists face the challenge, face the problems, and how they have the resilience in how they work, how they adapt themselves. And lastly, about the role of artists during the pandemic. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today. So let me pin you all here. Here. So first we have Espallardo from Philippines Educational Theater Association of PETA. Second, we have Kun Ali Tanawat Asawaitthipond from Artpedia, and he is also the producer at Pichet Klunchun dance company. And lastly, we have Kun Bipem or Kun Sasapin Siriwanij from BIPAM or Bangkok International Performing Arts Meeting. So the sequence for today is I'll let our speakers talk for about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we open the floor for questions and answer from the audience. So anyone who joined this Zoom meeting, you can type your questions, comment during the talk, and also this is being live streamed on Facebook. So on Facebook, you can also type your comment question there. And at the end, if we have time, so you may want to raise your hand to open the video and talk, so we have better interaction in time that we have virtual event. So I'd like to pass the floor to Leah, our first speaker. Okay. You're mute. Let me see my setting here. Okay.
You have to allow me, I think.
Yeah, is this now? Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Leia Espallardo from Philippine Educational Theater Association, and I am based in the Philippines. Before I start, let me just share my presentation for today. What I will be sharing with you is the story of our organization and how we managed to survive and still surviving this pandemic. Let me just, I couldn't see my presentation. Okay, so now it's there. This is a story of PETA since we started our lockdown last year, March 15, 2020. First, let me just describe, or let me just tell you about what PETA is, what we do. So PETA is an, oh, I cannot move. Okay. Okay. So the Philippine Educational Theater Association is a 54-year-old theater company based in the Philippines with the vision to pursue a theater that will help that will help in people's development and nation building. So roughly, we have about 90 resident artists and 30 employees at the moment. We also run a theater center, which is a 3-story building. We have a proscenium theater inside that can accommodate 450 audience. We have 2 classroom studio. We have offices and library. And we have also produced over 500 plays in the past. And sorry, there's a delay, no? We have also created and developed compelling stories and narratives relevant to our times. At the same time, we have also facilitated and organized thousands of workshops in and out of the country. And right now, we are closed. We have been closed for 16 months and we're still counting. So that's where we are at the moment. Okay. So despite the challenges that we are facing today, our mission continues through PETA Theater Online. In other words, we've migrated online. We were forced to migrate. We didn't have a choice but migrate online and continue our work. So what I will be sharing with you through a video, we've created this video last year to talks about how we as artists in the Philippines manage to survive and withstand the pandemic despite the difficulties that we are in right now, no? So what you will see, what you will hear are living voices of PETA's intergeneration of artist teachers. This is a 6-minute video and I will let the video speak for itself, no?
Land, domestic air, and domestic sea travel to and from Metro Manila shall be suspended beginning March 15, 2020.
One of the major effects of this whole pandemic on the PETA members ay disrupted yung kanyang life. I mean, disrupted life. All levels yun economic, passion-wise, personal, even yung psychological state niya. All of a sudden, it created an insecurity, di ba?
Talagang tumaas yung anxiety na ko, particularly because I was managing and preparing for the summer workshop. And this is a lot of classes. So, anong sasabihin natin sa mga nag-enroll na? Anong sasabihin mo sa mga enrolled pa? Are you going to cut the classes? Or are you going to tell the faculty na, sorry, wala na po tayong classes ngayon? Because yun yung inaasahan ng mga faculty.
As an employee ng PETA, and as a member of PETA, dun sa nung mahaba na siya ng mahaba, yun na yung nakakatakot. Kasi parang, how can a business survive nang hindi ka pwedeng pumunta kung saan ka pumunta?
Ang hirap na itong pandemic na nangyari sa buong performance industry. Number one, na-realize, grabe, we're not even a statistic ever. Parang counted because we're not really a number, or especially the freelancers, so hard to get ideas. So that's really hard. Actually, nakaka-affect siya.
The first reaction was really to ask, how do we continue? How can we continue? I mean, people lost their job contracts and we all have to look for other ways to earn and survive. Wala namang choice eh, even the company, di ba?
Nakakadismaya, pero at the same time, pag gumagawa ka ng paraan para ano yun, na-realize mo, ay, mayroong palang ibang naidudulot ito.
Pero maraming kami so, isa yun sa pwede mong kapitan. And finally, the lockdown forced us to engage in the digital platform. March 15, the lockdown started. March 16, we were already on Zoom. We were forced to migrate from on-stage to online. The world was in panic and we felt that. Tapos March 20, we launched the Let's Get Creative online sessions. A week after that, we were extending cash assistance na to our displaced artist members and technical crew. And then we established pa the quarantine teams or the few teams where we group our members and staff according dun sa location para ma-ensure yung proper monitoring of their safety and welfare. We were also doing all these online programs para kahit papano makapagbigay siya ng trabaho sa mga members. When I felt that we were able to secure somehow yung PETA community, it was time to look outside.
And then we formed a group of people who were part of a brainstorming session on how PETA can expand its work online.
Tapos, yun na nga, nasundan na siya ng pagkarami-raming digital programs.
We have been very brave pursue our educational work despite the changes that we are facing. And that benefits us because we learn from it. Now we're pushed to learn. Wala tayong choice. Kailangan natin mag-alam.
So, until that time, when the curtains can rise again, we have to be read creative works that were growing while this whole suffering is happening.
A part of me is saying, this is temporary. Pabalik tayo sa ating love na the wing member theater.
Even if a vaccine is invented and we emerge out of this quarantine and this pandemic, it will be a different world for all of us.
We have to create our own system. We are struggling to create our own, diba? For us to survive.
How do we do things? What kind of programs we should be creating? And how do we continuously make ourselves relevant in this new landscape is something that I think the company will have to collectively discover.
I know it's hard on us, but it is harder on many of our people. What's our task now as artists? Where do we draw? What are stories that we're going to tell? We have to keep on.
So this is a video we produce under the support of Southeast Asia Junction and other friends of PETA. This is what basically we went through for the past year, no, and we're still going through it until now. But the whole point here is that nothing can stop, despite all these challenges that we are in right now. From our side, on the side of PETA, nothing can stop the PETA artists. No, I remember in one of the General Assembly, in one of the members' meeting, our president CB Garucho, she was talking about this friend of hers and telling her, shut down the company. Broadway is already closed. All the theaters are closing down. So we were told that we should shut down the company and, just continue when everything is okay. And she said, over my dead body. And that statement inspired the members for us to continue. No? So we continue to find ways to survive and create and develop narratives of hope, courage, and the will to survive. So as artists, as a company, we continue to move on. We don't have a choice but to move forward. No, I don't know why I'm getting emotional. From uncertainty, we create our path. No? From isolation, we struggle to make sense and get a grip of wisdom. From despair, we choose to breathe in and breathe out. From fear, we choose to be resilient. I'm sorry. So until the curtains rise again, we hope to see you. For now, we are inviting everyone to join us online. Follow us online. We still have programs, so thank you. I'm sorry. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leah. It is indeed emotional, which I really understand. And I think everyone here is also emotional with all the things that we've been through during the pandemic. So it is really okay to be emotional, to be sensitive, and you show the strength that you continue to work during the pandemic. So we hear the voice already from the Philippines, and we've been to kind of the same, but in different contexts, different countries. So now I like to hear from Thailand as well, but it's not limited to in Thailand context in particular, because I know that some of you already work in regional scale, in international scale. Yeah, so next I would like to invite Kun Ali to talk.
Thank you, Bom. And very good to be also witness and listen to Leah. Send a strong support to you. Anyway, recently I just also, anyway, before that, I would like to introduce, I'm sorry. I'm the Tanawat, yes, the performing arts, dance and street art theaters, art exhibitors, dealing in the art organization called Artpedia in Thailand. We deal with the social project within Southeast Asian regions and also outside together. And also I'm the producer. I just like emerging producer of the Pichet dance company. So basically, I think today's speaker, we are quite from the performing art field. But anyway, the things is I just want to continue what Leah just said is like, I just sent and talked to one of my friends who already, we already have been doing some kind of the collaboration project since 2019, and actually those projects need to be finished by like, I think this year, yeah, without, if no pandemic. But the thing is, I just sent to her is like, don't die, we must meet again. And that thing is like, recall frequency to me often on and on when I talk and when I think about this kind of the situations with the artists and also with the art practitioners and art exhibitors that we have to deal with this pandemic time. Anyway, let me overview what we have done as the organization that I'm doing within the our region, the Southeast Asian. Of course, the project from last year till now under Artpedia and Pichet Dance Company need to be replanned and also reorganized due to the update of situations of the pandemic. Last year, Pichet Dance Company tour during the pandemic also to Taiwan. Yes, the festival there. But anyway, the trip was not that easy to go, of course, during the outbreak of the pandemics at the first round. And also when he back to Thailand, of course, there must be some procedures and also the rule that we have to follow by and many things. And of course, I just heard from there also the tour from one of our today's speaker, Sasapin. Yes, she also just toured to Europe recently, and of course we face this kind of the same situations. But anyway, for this year for us is even a bit. I try to use the word of the bit, but actually we plan to go. Touring to domestic areas, for example, like educational institutes, and also we have the broad tip. But anyway, due to the third hit, we call it in Thailand now, since like I think the beginning of this year and also April of this year. Yes, our plan also again need to be reorganized. But anyway, luckily, if we see the overview of our the project now, we are quite lucky that we have good partners and organizations that support us effectively. They understand that. But anyway, not all projects that understand it like that. We some of the project, not all, some of the project, we still have the good support. And this is the thing that I would like to share with you guys. Like in this hard time, of course, to pay our team at the normal rate comparing to other professionals is very crucial. And this also with the strong motivation that of course normally without pandemics we need to reach for the best of artistic qualities and also joining and also project contributions. Those are very essentials. But anyway, with the support that we very thankfully feel for that, and that's why we can focus and continue our motivations and our project on that those. I think this effect and this show a lot that what if we are still like this even during pandemic or after, the post pandemic, with this kind of the support within the Southeast Asian, our regions. We all know that I speak for the performing art fields that we have a very limited source within the regions. Even of course there's upcoming project or the ideas or the platform that try to support us. But frequently, I would love to share you the trend that what I have observed, like couple months, 6 months from the beginning of this year, there are more the project that about the training project, less collaborations and less resilience, of course, and also more focus on AI, the technologies, and this kind of the project also, or the platform, or the program that been support from the organizations. I think they work together and they also discuss what if it could be in this 2021. But of course, we are behind the pan of or the game of the new species of pandemics. We just been hit, yeah, and that is very things that we need to concern. I would call this because I would love to share with you with that for my research and what I have talked with many artists and also art practitioners. I found that for the established artists, I believe that they would continue their artistic directions or the artistic choice even during the pandemics or post-pandemic. I don't mean that they're not gonna recognize or record this kind of the severe situation during the pandemics, but I mean like they will adjust some kind of the art administration's way to deal and to try to cope. They might use new platform, but the things that I'm so worried now is like the new generation artists that they need to be, and they try so hard to, of course, in our regions they must try so hard with very limited support. But the things what I'm trying to say is like basically the program that been provided nowadays maybe it kind of the very sensitive or I should say it's the kind of it's very controversial. It needs to be very carefully rethink and also plan that for the new generations actually do they focus enough, or do they actually been solid enough, or they craft themselves enough to grab or to join those plans. This is my controversial, but anyway, for me, it's quite surprised that I think that many of the projects that been out now maybe make quite clear the trends for the artists to follow. But otherwise, if we just follow those kind of the organization that they open for the funding or the support, it's a kind of just only the maybe I don't want to use the word of the misleading, but so I try and I wish to introduce this kind of the balance between the artists during the pandemics. Especially the new generations need to craft themselves and need to also question themselves even more. I think even more times and even much more focus on that balance with what the organization provides. Otherwise, this kind of the things you might not focus on what you are going to do and understand yourself. I think this is a part that I'm trying to share as the creative project that I mean like the art project that I've been observed. And also, so I think that it's quite would be very beneficial if we find the alternative funding source. For example, like the source that can provide the new platforms or very flexible the resources to the generations. I call to the organization for any art support organization that could provide them, I mean domestically or internationally, that these new generation need space. I understand that now during the very severe hit of the pandemic, we still have no physical space to provide or this kind of the opportunity like that. But to make I shouldn't use the word to make, to give them the chance to continue is very important. Otherwise, this gap of the people, they will walk out from the industry. And imagine what I been observed a lot of the people who very have the very skillful and very charming, and of course those people did a lot of good work in the art fields of the performing art, but anyway they have to walk out from the industry to their hometown due to the pandemic, which is very, of course, very sad thing to know that those anyway. So I think for now, if we see here and the situations of the pandemic like this, I would love to recall the word that I just said in the beginning, that in the absurd state or the government like Thailand or other countries that still have the very bad time and difficulties dealing with the pandemics, not just as the artist but as a people, my suggestion is to thankfully but to survive and plan for the 2020 or 2023, yes, and see what next, what we can do in terms of the what we see and what we dealing with this kind of the situations. But anyway, I also don't mean I don't mean that we should not recognize, and we should remember this kind of the hard time. And I just like, I think that it's also is the time that we should recognize and also get in our memory. Some artists might put it in the creations or something like the talk or in other art forms. But yes, of course, I support to say that we shouldn't not, or we should not forget about this time. But anyway, so my point is that most of my point has been already said during this my share. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for the issues that you have brought up, especially the issue of funding and support for artists. As we know that the funding and support is already hard in our country for artists even before the pandemic, and then the pandemic has brought about more difficulties that we have. And we are glad that this event and many art activities can still be conducted, and this event is made possible by Mekong Cultural Hub, which I need to thank again. Like after we postponed many times and our event was initially planned to take place on site, we moved to hybrid, and then we moved to completely online because the situation in Bangkok. And previously, I also invited another speaker from Indonesia, but he could not join because of COVID-19 situation. Even though we lack the voice of Indonesia, which he is the traditional artist, I know that some of you work in intersection with traditional art and contemporary art, so I hope that the issue we cover today would be inclusive. So next, I'd like to introduce our last speaker, Kun Sasapin. Here.
Hi, thank you. And it's a pleasure to be here today with C Junction, which actually BIPAM has been looking forward to cooperating with C Junction for a long time. So this is a great opportunity. Thank you. And also to share a panel with Leah from PETA, also our fond colleague. We are a fan of PETA, also always following your work from Bangkok, and also with Tanawat. I think what Leah and Ali has said, the two phrases that are very strong and rings very true is, over my dead body and don't die. This is probably a very good summary of the spirit that's going on in the region and also in Thailand right now. I am artistic director of BIPAM, Bangkok International Performing Arts Meeting. Maybe you've heard here and there about BIPAM. BIPAM is a platform for performing arts, artists and practitioners with a very strong focus in Southeast Asia. And we usually are, our most our main event is the annual meeting, which we usually plan to take place every year, where it's a 5-day program. We have discussions, we have showcase performances and workshops and networking activities for artists and practitioners in Southeast Asia and beyond to come and meet and, you know, talk and exchange. However, of course, since 2020, as everybody knows, things have been changing, and our next event was scheduled for September. We are still going to move on with the plan in September, but we have really just freshly decided, I think just 5 days ago or something, that we have to now migrate completely online. And that is also one of the things that just now before this official panel, we talked amongst ourselves in the rehearsal that migrating online is also an issue. Of course, it's a great opportunity to discover something new as a platform, but I think it is not that easy. It's not like a snap of a finger that you can, you know, immediately move online. So we already saw that PETA has, you know, all these great examples from PETA, but of course there's like loads of work behind that to be able to stay present online, like what PETA did or what Ali has been talking about in his practice. I'd like to start by reviewing what has been happening with the mentality of the arts and artists in Thailand since the pandemic first hit in 2020, and how that develops over the year. And now that we're sitting here in 2021, the situation is not better, but there are details of differences already in the ways that people and artists and practitioners think around art making and surviving with the arts and their practices. So what we first saw in 2020 in Thailand, it started around, I think, April, May back in 2020, and with the first lockdown, I think artists and art practitioners were the people who were very quick in becoming in getting into the state of acceptance. Actually, it was of course a struggle. It was of course very difficult for everyone, but I think people in the creative circles and artists are very quick to become acceptant of the situation and then move on also very quickly to creativity. You could see that creativity flourished everywhere in a sense that it's online because the physical places were not possible. And so we saw artists doing everything they could, BIPAM also doing everything we could, everybody doing everything that they could with all the limited resources that they had at the time. And so there was, although it was limited, although it was very sad that the pandemic hit, we saw that a lot of things were flourishing. So much creativity was like popping everywhere. And suddenly there was so much content to enjoy, there was so much art to enjoy. And I think this is definitely a manifestation of resilience in the form of very quick adaptation, in the form of this willingness and openness to explore new things and cooperate in whatever forms at all. So people are really in this headspace to reach out to each other and take in any tools, anything that they can catch in order to be able to continue to be creative and artistic. So there was also this kind of ubiquitous sense of gratitude, I feel, and appreciation of everything that could happen at the time. And there was a lot of moving on despite having a lot of drawbacks. I remember there was one online session that was organized very quickly after the first announcement of lockdown in Thailand that performing arts teacher and educators gathered very quickly to discuss how could we go on teaching online something like performing arts, which needed your presence and, you know, sharing time and space with the teacher, instructor, and also the students, for example. So I mention educators because the fact of the performing arts scene in Thailand is that I think half or maybe 60% of us are also educators. It's I think it's kind of inevitable that a lot of us are now also teaching students and producing more, new generation artists. So teaching online and having to give courses and workshops online was also one of the big issues that was being discussed and still discussed now, because there's always this discrepancy between the performing arts, which is supposed to be a live form of art, and having to do all this now in an online platform where we don't have the opportunity to reach out to another human being. Also, in the year 2020, I felt that there was this feeling that this would be temporary, that what we're doing is kind of, doing whatever we can in this time that would eventually pass. And then at the end of the tunnel, we will be able to get out of this darkness and then resume our more or less normal practices. And I think this kind of idea actually sustained the flourishing, popping up activities and creativity that took place in 2020, which was also true for BIPAM. What BIPAM did in 2020, we organized this online webinars for 11 Saturdays over around 3 months with different countries in Southeast Asia, where we reached out to each country, and we got this kind of overall mapping of Southeast Asia, of all the countries that some of them were good friends with, some of them we had never been in touch before, but at the end of the series, we could get all this sense of, across the region, what are people doing, what are people encountering. But then I think so the year 2020 went on like that. In Thailand, there was a period where things kind of relieved, and there was quite a few months where it felt like we could go back to normal lives. You might have already heard that activities on the streets were happening, and I think both as a result of the pandemic and a result of the political failure, many artists also went out on the streets, protesting with the people, fighting for what I see as the root cause of a lot of disappointments that was happening and still happening now in our country. I think it's a movement that I personally am delighted by, because with all this crisis, some artists really know where they would like to stand, which is to go out there with the people. And a lot of them also feel like they have to be with their audience, and their audience, the people they would like to engage, are now on the streets, protesting, demonstrating. So they also go outside, be on the streets with the people. And you could see this rise in much clearer political voices in the creative works towards the end of 2020. And I think this is the trend still up until at the moment, which it could sound, pretty normal everywhere else, but for a country like Thailand, where the culture is really anything but confrontation, this is something that's very, very fresh and new for us that happened towards the end of 2020. However, of course, there are losses, and we cannot overlook this aspect, losses of commercial jobs, because, you cannot sustain life with just artistic work still in Thailand. So a lot of artists have commercial jobs aside, and losing all that also means losing money for a lot of people. Like Ali mentioned about younger artists having the possibility to walk away from the arts eventually. This has happened kind of, more or less with some not young, but also mid-career artists, or even, I'm not sure about established artists, but some mid-career artists also are turning to other jobs to sustain life. And of course, this would affect the time and the investment that they would otherwise have for their artistic practice. Also, I think we lose the opportunity to train ourselves and have practical research. Performing arts we could do things online, but of course, I think it needs physical space and investment of time to be together, or at least be with yourself practically, to train, to research for yourself. And this is something that I think we don't have the luxury to have for a long time already. And now settling down now, well, not really settling down in 2020. I don't think we could ever settle down very soon. I think the feeling is, I'm pretty sad to say that I feel a sense of despair at the moment. It's really not very hopeful, and I would not pretend that we are hopeful. I think you can imagine that with the full year of hopes that things will come back to normal, half a year of going out on the streets, fighting and fighting and fighting. And of course, in fighting, you do hope that some things will get better. 2021 has been proving for us that it's not going to get better yet, not soon. After all this strenuous effort from every side of the society, we are tired. The openness that we used to have in 2021 is much less now. And I think within this downside, the more or less bright side of this, if I could say there is a bright side, is that I think there are now strong wishes to look for longer term solutions. So if you see 2020 as, trying out new things, 2021 right now, I think people are already asking, demanding, and planning, thinking around what are the actual long-term sustainable solutions or plans or strategy, so that we don't have to always grab all these spontaneous temporary solutions, but something that's really going to last. And with Thailand, Ali has already touched a bit on this. I think for us, it has to involve systematic change and structural change, and if not, political changes also. So it's not just about artists and the arts anymore. It's all about the entire structure of the country, that I think everybody, including the artists and art practitioners, this is what we're looking forward to, and this is what we are taking actions towards. For myself personally, I've apart from being the director of BIPAM, I'm also an independent producer, and Ali has been so kind as to mention that I have just come back from Europe, actually, bringing a production to tour in Europe, and already seeing that in some parts of the world, life could kind of come back to normal. But really now that we're back here, Europe is experiencing a surge in cases again, and now everybody is scared whether the normal that we had was going to last or not. I don't think it's very certain anymore that the situation will stay that way. So I think resilience is becoming a buzzword almost these days, but in the true sense of the word, for the artists, we have done everything we could, I think. And with really limited resources, artists being often the last one to be given help and care to, being the first to be eliminated in national policies or when power is rising. We are doing a lot, and I don't think we are complaining, because this is kind of I think resilience, especially in Southeast Asia, resilience has been with us. It's really not quite new. It's not that we only developed the resilience in the pandemic times. I don't think that's true at all. I think resilience has been with us. It's only much more clearer now that we are going through this internationally and globally together. So with this given topic from C Junction, what is the role of the arts and artists during the pandemic? And I have pondered this question a lot, and I know that many artists have asked themselves, in all these difficult times, why are we doing arts? Why are we doing something that for a lot of people feels like a luxury, something that can be put aside, something that's not necessary? I've come to conclude to myself that art is the affirmation of humans flourishing. So there will be places and time where art can hardly take place, like at the moment. And whenever there's this place and time where art cannot flourish, I think this tells you about the human conditions of that specific place and that specific time. And art and creativity brings you outside of your own mundane aspect, I think, and discover the wonder in yourself and also the world around you. So the role of the artist in this sense, when we thrive, when we try to move forward, I think we can continue to propose new ways of looking at things, new approaches to different aspects of life. And already this capacity to look at life and things around you in new ways, this itself, I think, is hope. Hope comes from awareness that something else is possible other than what is happening. It feels like a really great task, something, you know, amazing that artists could do. But also I would like to raise that artists are, however, also human beings. And in this pandemic, even though we have a lot of hopes for the arts, we look a lot to the artistic communities, but artists themselves are human beings and they are also need to be given care. And especially for the situation in Thailand, I think artists and the arts community need systematic support and structural support, just like everything else, and they should not be cast aside. But does that mean that artists are like special species that need to be taken care of, you know, more differently than other people? I don't think so. I would encourage us to look at the support for the space and time for arts or artistic practice as a way to encourage people everywhere to recognize the artistic capacity in themselves too, and that they too, as a human being, deserves to have the space and time to explore, to contemplate, to be pensive about their own creativity inside. And if they cannot do it, then we have artists who have been working in this, you know, realm for a long time, exploring creativity and artistic capacity for a long time, and they could maybe lead. But I think, you know, the space, whether it is physical space or mental space or emotional space or virtual space for artistic contemplation, is not just to be provided for the artist, but also for everyone. And this is probably what we're lacking at the moment in my, I would just say in my country. I really don't know the situation elsewhere well enough to include other places. So there's a lot of thoughts coming around this idea, but looking through, you know, 2020 and now we're in 2021, I think this is where I am right now, that we are tired, we're not hopeful, but we're still keeping forward. We're not letting being disappointed stopping us, but we do know that by going with the wish to go forward, it's not just us anymore. I think it's not just about us keeping doing everything, doing. But if the whole ground on which we're doing things are not moving with us, I'm not sure for how much longer we can keep fighting by ourselves. So not a very hopeful note, but I think this is where I am at the moment, and I would just end the first part of the presentation right here, and I'd welcome responses from colleagues who are here with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for many issues covered in your talk. Is very comprehensive, somehow hopeful and somehow realistic as well in the way that we face right now. So it's indeed true that we, not only the artists, but many people have done everything that we could, but we still need the systematic support from the officials from government to sustain our activities. And we need the space not only in terms of physical, but more importantly, in terms of civic space where we can express ourselves, where we can express art. So after we hear already from our three speakers, I'd like to open the floor here to any questions, comment, anything from the participants here in Zoom and also in Facebook Live. Are there any questions? If not, I'll ask myself. So since there are no question much so far, maybe let me raise some issue which I know that you already talked before. So there are so many issues right now that we cover. I know it's really big topic to cover: challenges, resilience, and the load that artists pay right now. Yeah.
I mean, what Sasapin said, I thought it was a beautiful, grounded, and realistic reading of the reality. You know, it's a very honest admittance of where you are at the moment or where we are. I mean, we all experience the same despair, no? And the admittance was beautiful, but it also gives you, okay, this is where I am at the moment. The recognition is the most important thing, no? Recognizing that you are feeling this, you are in this position. It also makes you ask, where do I want to go? So I thought that was a beautiful and honest recognition of where we are at the moment. It's important for everybody, you know. And talking about, you were talking about systems failure, right? We are all part of a system, but we also cannot let it fail. I mean, from my part, I don't want it to fail, even if you witness it failing. You know? That was why I was that's one of the reasons also I think why I was emotional during the presentation. It came out as a surprise to me because we are tired. It's been 16 months and you witness the system failing and you can't do much. You can't do much. We talk about long-term solution. We cannot think of any long-term solution because we cannot control. So
exactly.
It's out of our control. So what we do as artists, what we do as a community, we just work in our own small world. We work in pockets, no? Whether it's individual initiative, whether it's a group of an artist doing something. We want to contribute in our own way. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Leah. I think we have to admire PETA's strength too, that not just now that you are surviving, but you have been long-standing for so many years throughout the history. And I think we already know that Southeast Asia is not the region super healthy for the arts, you know, and for a company to survive for such a long time already means that there's so much work invested in it, behind it. So, but yeah, thank you for that. And it's true that, yeah, I really like what you say, that we see it failing in front of us and we're still doing things and we really hope for things to change, but there's many things that we just cannot control. And sometimes it's almost sad to think, sometimes you come to this realization whether or not the arts can only inspire, and can we do more than inspire? Can we really, and sometimes we wonder what are the people in the structure or the policy making, what are thinking, why they're not thinking something similar as what we're doing, because we could see that there are, of course, you know, governing a country is complex, we know that, but sometimes we see some things as totally out of direction in our opinions, and we wonder what they're doing, because running a big group or an organization, we do know what needs to be planned and in which way, and sometimes we just wonder what is our government counterpart doing in that sense, like looking forward, like how are they actually solving problems. And I think another thing that's interesting in Thailand is that many times people don't like to say that they're political or they have political opinions, but lately it's been really kind of, everywhere that people now do know directly what politics mean to them. And in the arts, all the little things, you really feel it like this. I think in the normal situation, you can still go on doing your projects and activities without knowing that the system is bad, but then you can kind of still survive more or less. But when in this kind of critical times, the little things, the little change in the policy making hits you, like, hits you by the shoulder, maybe touches your hair, and you really feel it, like you're spun around by all these regulations or changes or measures that come out every single day. So I think this is also the time that people are really feeling, the grips of politics around them. And I don't know, maybe there will be a burst in the near future of this kind of frustration or something like that.
Yeah, thank you for this, again, wonderful discussion. I have seen many activities, not only in art, that try to say that they are not political, and part of it is how the system try to force us. For example, in the non-profit organization, which Junction is also a non-profit organization, they say that all activities must not be political, but how can we not be political? Because I see everything is political, art itself is political. And to get back from what you have already touched upon before, we have seen many arts movement, like how do I say, free art movement in Thailand, and also many arts engaged in the movement right now in Myanmar and in elsewhere as well. So we already have the question from our audience, so I'll jump to that. So we have the question from Samsi10, which is also our grantee of Junction. So Samsi10 is run the Cambodian Film Festival, which previously he planned to do it on site in person. After last year, they already canceled it. So yeah, he already mentioned the name of the festival. You can check out on his Facebook page. I don't know if I pronounced correctly, sorry, Shaktomuk Short Film Festival. So this year it's going to be done online. So his question is that how effective do you think online format are to your activities or to professions, especially since you are all here performing arts, which is supposed to be live. So we have experienced some immersive feeling, but now everything is done online. So how different and how effective it is?
I must say that actually we are forced to migrate to the online platforms and also the formats. But anyway, as what you just said from in the performing arts fields, that we always we as the art practitioners and artists, we always here for the live moment or the live environmentals. I mean the performance form of it is kind of the ritual form that it needs people to gather together and experience together. And one is come to the online. Sometimes it's lack of the spiritual moment that you together experience. And also in the term of the creations, sometimes it's like, for me, I found that I personally don't believe that it's gonna be that much effectively now, because when in the time of the creations, if the artists need to pay and to act or to respond to the lens of the camera, it's very different from the the way you perform in the street, right? And those kind of the elemental feelings or the experience that you're gonna have as a ritual form originally as a performance, you will have totally different feeling from that. Even if it record once, or even if it like very like the well recorded like the performing films or something like that. And sadly that in the Southeast Asians we are lack of those kind of the theater film as well as the qualified one with the record what qualified one. But anyway, when I look also in the another point, I just been in one of the dance panel. It's like called it's dance nucleus, and one of the speakers who's from that is the Daniel Koch. Actually, he also from the Southeast Asian Choreographer Network, and he said a very interesting thing that he is also kind of the I'm sorry, I should introduce also that is also kind of the conceptual producer and conceptual directors who make the platform and also introduce the word of the online as a space. And if you also can work and use the online as your state, you as the artist also you need to feel the online, which is quite controversial for me as well. But in another sense, I also that if we can have the linkage between me or between any art practitioners with the platform that we work together, it also might work for some. I would say that for some is might work but not work perfectly. But I think that of course, for example, there's the one dialogue where one of the not performance but kind of the dialogue that they create together, and they use the Google form to talk there. 4 of them use a Google form to talk in there and let other people observe it on. So it's a real time making. Of making the script on the Google form. So it's quite interesting also to observe that as well. And I recognize also one of the interesting way to make those kind of the conceptual way to introduce online platform. Yes.
Yeah. Leah and Sasapin, do you have anything to add for online format correction? No.
Maybe I can just add just a bit. The question of effectivity, it's hard. We don't have much choice, but I mean from our side, we don't have much choice but to make it effective, because there is no other option, right? We are forced to migrate. There was this big word last year called pivot. That means you really have to shift. We have to make the necessary shift. It's not just about survival also, but the online shift forced us to see the reality of the other world. It's actually, we saw the opportunity of the other world. Because we were forced to shift, we saw the opportunity of what's out there. What is out there? What are the opportunities that we saw? That it is another platform for artistic creation. We cannot compare it to live, but it is at least another platform for creation. As artists, we cannot be stopped. We have to continuously create, right? The second opportunity that we saw is that it's an opportunity to expand audience, right? So that other people or other, you can go beyond the border of your country. Now, all of a sudden, you can watch all these beautiful performances from this place, and you've seen a lot of beautiful artistic creations and experimentations online. I've seen a lot of a combination of digital live performance combined with digital performance, and it opened you to infinite possibilities for creation, right? So that's a beautiful opportunity for us that we saw. Another point is it became an opportunity for our membership to also upskill, learn new things, as what Sasapin said. We had to learn new things. I used to be a digital Jurassic. You know what I mean? I call myself as a digital Jurassic, but because I was forced to migrate, all of a sudden, technology became my ally for teaching. All of a sudden, we're able to reach teachers and teaching creativity, how to teach creativity on blended learning. You know what I mean? So all those opportunities, that's how we look at it, and we have to make it and I mean, in a sense, it's effective. All the programs that we have been doing in the past, I can say it helped a lot of people, while as an alternative. I mean, as an alternative to, you know, what we cannot have at the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I would just add to Leah that it is an effective platform, but it's not a complete substitute to offline activities. So it's just another space for us to do some things. And in this new space, we deal with the tools, new tools and new audience, new ways of communication, new ways to feel people online. But really, for me personally, it could get too much watching the screen the whole time, no matter how captivating what's going on in there can be. And I feel like myself personally, I do this, and if I see a really beautiful performance, then one day I would hope that I'm gonna see it live. I'm gonna see the people actually moving and sweating in front of me. However, yeah, it has to be effective, because that's now what we have and what we have to deal with. And with artists being artists, they are given these tasks now. So the online world has become the new framework for the artists. So they can and they will be able to work with it, and they will be able to make it effective in their own way. However, we might see, I don't know, maybe a new language that's going to emerge from this, because there was I think in the beginning of the pandemic, there was a discussion whether we are moving into the language of film now that we have to make performing arts for the screen. I'm not sure, but I think it's possible that it's developing in a little bit of a different language than the film language itself, because we are constantly asking, how do we make it still performing arts, although it is on screen? So, but this is, I think, in development, and it's too early to say what's going to come out of this at the moment.
Yeah, it is indeed. I agree with all speakers. So it's the way that we are forced to. We are left with no choice, and it's not only performing arts, but also film festival. The event like this, we're supposed to be on site at first, but then we need to be at the end online. So I see the hand raising from Rosalia Shortino, which is our Junction founder and executive director. So I'll let her talk. Here you are.
Yes. So thank you for all these interesting ideas, and many others questions come up. Indeed, that's the issue of migrating is not only for artists, right? We are all forced to migrate. I mean, I teach at university, and unfortunately now we have to teach on Zoom. I find the experience very different in terms also of what it gives me to teach in a classroom. And I think here is what Ali probably say, the emotion of connection. And when you teach in a classroom, you feel energized. When you teach on Zoom, often you feel exhausted at the end of the 3-hour class. So I think this is a big challenge. And another challenge is coming up is that there are so many different competing programs that to get the crowd, let's say Junction as an organization, which we had full rooms, now is much more difficult to get. In spite of the expansion that Leah mentioned, yes, in principle, you can reach people all over the world, but it's less and less people. It's not like the numbers are growing. This irrespective of the interest of the program. Yes, of course, some topic may be more interesting, but in general, you see it's a declining trend. I think people are tired of this, watching things on video all day long, and there are too many to compete with. So I wonder if you can reflect on this. But my question is actually on the political. I was interested about the demonstration, right? The artist contribution to the demonstration, which indeed was a very lively moment, which unfortunately has been declined. And now Thailand has only 5 people can meet, it seems, so there cannot be demonstration for the time being. And so also the artists, I think they are no longer so active in the demonstration when the demonstrations start to become more violent for whatever reason. You saw a decrease of artists' participation. But I wonder, there could be a lot of criticism of the current government in the Philippines, in Thailand, in Indonesia through arts. You don't see that too much, you know. I mean, you see in Myanmar very clearly through performance, through cartoons, through all kind of media, of really using the arts as a way to discuss the failure of governments and the policy that have been taken. I am not so sure I see that much, and I want to hear your opinion of whether indeed the arts are muted on this. They feel they don't have the confidence to criticize or to comment on their own way, yeah? Whether it's through performance or through design or through whatever, poetry. I mean, there are many different ways, which you see in the case of Myanmar very clearly. But I wonder, and PETA especially, yeah, Leah, I mean, who was a political TR, are you still really engaging in the real political discussion of critique of the government? If yes, how you see it? If not, why you think is the case? This is for all speakers. Yeah.
I would go first. There are active art groups who are on a daily basis producing works that critique the government, but I think it's harder for international...
On the COVID situation, yeah.
COVID and all else, because it's all intertwined at the moment. However, I think it's less performing artists or in performative formats, but more on digital formats. For example, we have a Facebook group which is like Illustrators for Democracy, this kind of name. Yeah. And we have people producing artworks online every single day. I think 2 or 3 or 5 pieces a day that comes out in response to daily occurrences, daily corruption that is happening in the country. And I think it's a little harder to get to international exposure or understanding because it's super, super local, the context that they're dealing with. And it's very Thai that people deal with the criticism in such a way. So, you know, it's almost like, if you think of language pun, I think this is kind of the mentality that these visual artists are operating on. So they're really taking elements from the language, from the gist of the news, and then turn it into visual expression. But then it's super hyper local that you either have to understand Thai or maybe understand the news in such detail, which really changes every afternoon or something, you know, every half a day, in order to understand what the critique is on at the moment. I think that's why, while if you compare it to Myanmar, I think of course Myanmar has complexity, but there's an overall demand which is still, you know, this like big idea that you can understand and grasp. But the critique in Thailand that I see right now, maybe Ali has something else to add, but what I see is really like pinpointing in the details, which I would not have the ability to translate it in simple terms, actually.
Well, it's not only the issue of, I agree with you on the visual, there is some, there are a lot of posters, but what about indeed the performing arts as such?
That is, let me add to Sasapin, and I quite, what Sasapin said, make me recall one thing is like very important. I also work in the very different field, not just contemporary but also classical art. And what you just you guys just said is recall me that not exactly answer to your question, but there are also some artists, as you just say, Leah, that you are now around like you are like 50s, and also you are like you are not very familiar with the technology, right? So there's a lot of voice of the artists and also the people that not familiar with this kind of technology and haven't been portrayed or haven't been shared to the public. Especially for the classical artists, that actually also they don't, some of them I am sure that they don't agree with the government, and also they want to speak up for this kind of thing. But the artists or the extended artists at that level, and also if they are in the classical art, they are very familiar with non-technology platform at all, and I wish to also and to experience what also what they thought, or what they work, what update, and what they think about this kind of the situations to the politicals as well. And that's happened also in the Southeast Asian regions, right? Because we know that the inequalities within our regions to this kind of as the tools to communicate outside the world. I'll focus on the very main cities or the organization that we already been provided with very well educated. But yes, I would love to hear and experience for that more. Yeah, and because I haven't heard that much a lot. Yes, from them. Yes. What I want to.
Leah, I think with in the Philippines case, no, of course Myanmar is different because you see, and with Myanmar it's very clear. With Philippines, we for PETA, for example, even during the pandemic, we didn't stop providing content that are political. It depends on what's the issue at the time. So, for example, we provided content on the anti-terrorism act, anti-terrorism law. So there was that campaign or content initiated by the young members of the company, and it was put up online. We also streamed performances on YouTube, which was also put up online about issues of democracy, issues of extrajudicial killings, issues of the martial law. I mean, we still are providing it. We still are doing it, but because our movement was also limited by this pandemic. There are some, of course, there will be protests here and there, small protests, but it's also limited. We can't do much. It limits our movement. And another factor also is that the political spectrum is also a bit, it's not divided, but it's also fragmented. It's not like before. It's not the same condition as in the 1980s. It's too political. The political spectrum, the progressive movement is also fragmentized. So that contributes to the seeming absence of a bigger movement to go against the status quo. So it's a very context-based thing. That's why it's difficult to compare it to Myanmar. But you see the difference. It's inspiring, of course, but there are a lot of factors, no. But the point is, we didn't stop providing content. We didn't stop doing what we used to do before. In fact, now we are having a campaign. It's going to be election next year, so we're doing this campaign on voters education among young people. Rock the vote. So it's a full campaign of PETA that we're currently doing with the young generation, the young voters, no? So we actually didn't stop.
Yeah, also I'm just gonna add that for Thailand, there's also this strong legal entailment and consequences that we also have to be really careful about, because that's been the strategy of the government since late last year, that's really driving us to corners that now we are also protecting ourselves, I think, and not in the sense that we're not speaking anything, but speaking it in a much more subtle way, or really waiting for the moment. Actually, there's just been a small protest not long ago, I think not even 2 weeks ago, and the performing artists are out there on the streets again, but it was quite small, quite quick, happened very quickly, it disappeared very quickly in order to ensure everybody's like physical safety, because the life threat is also very present also at the moment. Yeah, this is also what's changed from the hype of demonstrations last year that we had.
And also yes, what Sasapin just said is like also give me the information that if we recognize also as the pop music and also the hip hop artists who in the performing arts field as well, they try to create the new content and also a new content that communicate what they thought and what they think about the politicals and communicate with the new generation as well, which that happened a lot more and more. So then there's more supporters in this kind of the using the this art form as well. But anyway, as I just heard from the Myanmar, and also what I just said in the beginning of the first page, the word that don't die, that is the word that I talked to one of the Myanmar artists as well. Recently, they're just like kind of the, I think it's the mass lawful law enforcement that they try to capture a lot of artists who try to protest on the issue to the political issue in Myanmar, and some of my friends also been captured there as well, and just hopefully and luckily she's just back and also safely. But anyway, sorry for the noise from outside. But anyway, I just try to end this quick. But anyway, hopefully, if we see like this, I think also in the problem of relations between the government also affect a lot through this. Even we try to share or present our thought or our ideas, but if we can think that those, but what we can do is very limited, which is make me have to rethink that is that also do we have to balance and care also for the security matter as well, because some artists also they need to be safe and also create at the same time, and that is the thing that we need to concern. Because I at the time of the sharing work or creation is the pressure time, as is the time that we got a lot of motivations. But once those friends or the artists who've been captured and been that risky, I personally I feel like I feel very sad for that those and I don't and to lose. I shouldn't say that personally that friends, but I should say that to lose one of the artists to be risky like that is really things that we need to be concerned.
Yes, I raised this issue to stress it, that one role of the art also during this pandemic is also to remind governments of broader public issues. So I think some artists do this, so it's important to stress it. It's just that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's right. The role of artists during the pandemic is much more than just aesthetics to make people relax, enjoy, and so on. But there are many complex aspects of art, and the artists have been doing throughout the time. And it's not only during the pandemic; they have been doing for a long time. They have been resilient. They have been doing everything they could. So I guess we're running out of the time now, but we have another question and comment. I just want to read it out loud, but maybe we don't have time to answer. I'll just read the part of it. So it says that COVID-19 has revealed the challenge of advocating for artists' needs in many places because of this lack of formal status and lack of counting, which the video of PETA has said we are not counted because we are not a number. Yeah. So I think this could be really a great concluding remark for today, that COVID-19 has revealed a lot of challenge, a lot of existing problem that we have been before, but then it has been accentuated. It has been more and more this day. And artists as well as many people face the challenge, being through resilience, and they continue to survive. They continue to do their works. So I don't know, Peter, this could be a perfect concluding remarks, but I like to stress again that this has revealed a lot of things. And this link to the title of Mekong Cultural Hub program says revealing context, because it has revealed a lot. And I hope that we can continue discussion like this in the future. And in the future, I hope as well that we can do it on site where we can meet and interact everyone. So our time has ended. So I would like to thank everyone again for joining this session. And before we say goodbye to each other, I like to mention this again, that this event is a part of Mekong Cultural Hub, the cultural worker in terms of social change, a meeting point on art and social action in Asia. In addition to this panel discussion, we have many more live sessions from other countries in Southeast Asia and also in beyond in Asia. So if you're interested, you can visit in Mekong Cultural Hub Facebook page, and also Junction page will share it as well. So thank you again for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.